Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here today. This is something new that I've been wanting to try for some time. And today, I would like to just share a little bit with you about something personal, something that I've been through in the past, and something that it took me some time to get to a place to be able to talk about my experiences. I do share a lot on social media, a lot of different type of stuff. Whether it's things with my animals. For those that know me, I am a licensed clinical psychotherapist, and I do work with many different animals as part of a pet therapy program, and I include them into my practice. And I talk a lot about mental health and advocating for it. But today, I wanted to talk about some of the things that I went through. A lot of times people feel that therapists, they may be the all-knowing, or therapists don't have challenges, or they don't have problems, or they may not have certain things going on in their life. But when talking to people and hearing what they would like to see more of and what they would like to hear, a lot of it came through that they would like to hear some of the experiences that I was able to overcome based on my challenges, or things that go on the day to day. So I actually thought about a great way to do that is use some coping cards and share with you some of the things that I was able to use to cope. So there's this great game that I bought on Amazon. You guys can get it too if you'd like. Um, it's called coping. It's called Coping Skills, just like that. And I have a lot of different types of games that I use with my clients. So animals, therapy animals are one of them. But also using different type of games to be able to connect with kids, with teens, even with adults. So and it has different questions in terms of how you deal with life's challenges. So here we go. I just took a bunch from the pack. This is what the pack looks like, and we'll mix it up to see what we can talk about. All right. So the first question is, how well do you use journal keeping or writing as a coping skill? This is the question. It says, so it's asking how well does it work for me, journaling. And a lot of the times, it's actually one of the biggest things that I tell my clients is to journal. A journaling is a way to be able to get our thoughts from our subconscious mind onto paper. And then when we actually read it consciously, we're able to kind of piece together what's really going on internally. And it's a very comforting type of feeling to do that. For me personally, right, the saying, they say, practice what you preach. So, do therapists actually journal? And just like everybody else, some of us do, and for some it can be, a bit difficult. For me personally, opening up a book and just starting to write and journal, that is challenging. That's tough for me to do. So with dealing with that, a lot of times, you'll see even on Amazon, they sell certain books with prompts, things that you can open. You open up the book, and on top they can write, share 10 things that you are grateful for, or think about a memory where you felt at peace. So these types of things, when you write, it brings back memories that your life can actually be amazing, and there are good things that happen in your life. A lot of the times, going through the difficulties and the challenges the day to day, it can sometimes be very heavy on our heart, thinking that we're not good enough, and the world is so difficult, especially with what's going on right now. And being able to kind of reminisce and go back and say, like, you know what, my life is not that bad. I do have things in my life or in the past that I've done that actually did bring me joy, and possibly I can start that again. A lot of the times I'll talk with clients, and I'll say, when was the last time you felt at peace? And they'll say, the last time I felt at peace was when I was, when I had an opportunity to paint, or when I spent some time with horses, or when I go to a Zumba class, or when I bake, or when I do these different types of things, right? So, and then I'll ask them, when was the last time you did something like that? And they say, oh, well, it's been years, or it's been a long time, or I don't have an opportunity. Life is just too busy. So when we're able to make the connection that there are things in your life that bring joy to you, that make you happy, let's be able to create a time where you can apply it to your daily routine. If it cannot be something big that you can do every single day, so then even something small that you can do, something like enjoying a good cup of tea or a cup of coffee that you like. on that note. This is some good green tea, right? So being able to journal, that is a great way to get your feelings out. A lot of times when I work with kids, even or teens, there are a lot of books on Amazon that you can buy to help them get started. Because to be honest, sometimes it is really difficult to open up a book and just start writing about how you feel. If you're dealing with a difficult scenario or difficult life challenge at that moment, so it can be, it can be easy. But if everything seems fine and you wonder, what should I put in my journal today, and you may not have a good idea, there are books on Amazon. You can write, type in journals with prompts, and things will come up. So that can be very helpful. The next question is, how well do you use nature appreciation as a coping skill, right? So for me personally, for those who know me, I love animals, and all different types of animals, and I have a bunch of them myself. So being able to go outside with my animals and take them on a walk and be able to play with them and interact with them, I love that. That brings me joy. Something personal actually, and this is, let's get personal. I love the sound of rain. That just brings so much joy to my life. Hearing the rain, whether it's on a car window or just hearing the sound of rain, brings so much comfort to me. So um, there's this app. It's called Calm. I'm not sure, and this is not a plug. This is not a sponsored video, but there's this app that I just recently bought about maybe a year ago or so, and it absolutely helped me with so many different things. Like for example, even going to sleep. If I had a very busy day, saw many clients, and there was a lot going on with the pets, and there was so much happening throughout my day, and then sometimes it's like hard to turn off my brain when I go to bed. So using this Calm app helped me very much kind of fall asleep and kind of shut off my brain, so this way I can get a restful sleep. A lot of the times we go to sleep with all those thoughts still going on in our mind, and when we wake up we don't feel rested. So doing something, having a night ritual, for some people it can be taking a shower, it can be doing some aromatherapy or something type of action to show that your body's getting ready to go to bed. For me, when I'm having a hard day, to be able to kind of turn on that Calm app and listen to the rain falling, or listen to some type of either calming melody, that can definitely help me as well. So the next question is, how well do you use nature? Oh, so okay, so we talked about nature, right? Here we go. Here's the next one. How well do you use kindness to yourself as a coping skill? Right? How well do you use kindness as a coping skill to yourself? A lot of the times, this is huge, and I share this with with a lot of my clients, is that we're so used to being kind to other people and saying nice things to other people whenever they're having a hard time with their life, whatever that may be. But we're the last ones to compliment ourselves, to say something nice about ourselves, and be kind to ourselves, right? And I say this a lot to my clients, that when something, if you were to have a friend, and this friend were to come to you and say, I'm really struggling, I'm dealing with something really difficult right now, what would you do to them? Right? You would say, hey, don't worry about it. You'll be okay. You'll get through this. You'll give them some comforting words to be able to help them through it, right? Or maybe even sometimes to be able to say, you know what, this really sucks, but you will be okay. Or let's go do something fun together. You'll be there for that person, right? You'll give them a kind word. So let's do that for ourselves. Sometimes we wait for people to do that for us, and for some people that just doesn't happen. So you are your number one advocate. You are the one that needs to show up for yourself all the time. So don't forget to be kind to yourself. And for me, it was a process. It was a process. I was a person who, and even till today, sometimes I'm very hard on myself, and don't give enough credit to myself if I did something, and constantly can be criticizing, like, hey, maybe I didn't do this good enough, or I should have done it this way. So it was definitely a journey for me to be able to remember to also be kind to myself. All right. How well do you use the next question? How well do you use keeping in touch with friends or family and getting support as a coping skill? This is a big one. You know, a lot of the times I would feel that I want to do it myself. If there's something important, I want to do it myself, and I don't want to ask for help. And sometimes that can be very overwhelming. I remember, this is an interesting story. When I had it was about 2 years ago, my golden retriever, Sophie, had 10 puppies. And it was such an amazing, glorious experience. It was the most beautiful moment for us to experience, for my wife and I. And it was a lot of fun. But with that fun, as the days went on, it became more and more stressful and more challenging, because every 2 hours we had to feed the puppies and we had to clean up, and there was so much going on, and there were other animals that we had to take care of, and it was a lot of work and lack of sleep and a lot of work, and that can bring up a lot of stress as well. And being that I was that person who kind of wanted to do everything myself, it was really tough, and I felt like I was kind of breaking apart, and it was no longer an enjoyable experience. And having puppies, having animals, having pets around is supposed to be something that brings comfort and joy. But for a short moment, I felt very stressed out. So I called my brother and I said, hey, my wife and I haven't been able to get out of the house for some time. Do you feel like you're able to kind of step in for a few hours and watch the puppies and feed them every 2 hours and make sure they're on track and on schedule? And he said sure, and he came in and he was able to do it. And my wife and I were able to go out. We had some dinner. I think we watched a movie. We went on a walk, and it was difficult for me to kind of give that responsibility or ask somebody for help. But doing that helped keep my sanity together. And that's so important, that a lot of the times we try to control so many scenarios, right? But asking for help, and when you're not able to do something on your own, that can actually fill your vessel to be able to create an awesome life, continue creating an awesome life for yourself. Because sometimes in this life, we do need to ask for help as well. A lot of the times you hear people, especially the younger generation, where they say, I really I want to buy a house, or I want to buy something, but I'm embarrassed to ask somebody for help, because it makes me look less of a man, or it makes me look like I haven't achieved it on my own. And that's not the case at all. If you need to ask for help for anything, if let's say somebody comes to your house for dinner and they ask you, hey, can we make something? And for you to be able to say, yeah, sure, you can make a cake, or you can make a couple of, a dish or a salad or whatever that may be, to allow them to also participate. It doesn't make you any less of a host if one of your guests brings a dish or two. All right. Next, here we go. How well do you use patience as a coping skill? All right. This is the question. How well do you use patience as a coping skill? And this is a tough one, being that I am a millennial, right? We are in a very fast-paced type of environment where we want everything now, and it's really tough, especially with what we see on social media. So many other people's lives are glorified, and everyone seems to be living the most awesome life and having the best time. And sometimes we want that too, and it doesn't happen for us so quick, right? So having to work and having to work for everything that you have, that can sometimes be hard on a person. So being able to kind of ground yourself and understand that it's a process. Anything that you want to achieve in life, anything, it's a journey, and learning to enjoy the journey. For example, like traffic, right? If let's say you're going to work and it's late and you're speeding and you're trying to make it on time, allowing yourself to kind of be in that space, because you're still in the car, right? So either that moment can be a very high stressful moment, or we can convert it into making it a very peaceful moment, whether it's listen to a podcast, or listen to some good music, or allow yourself to have that peace and quiet before the day gets crazy. Being able to do these type of things, you're in the same scenario, but it switches up your perspective, and a lot of it has to do with what you think about. Um, so the next question is, how well do you use remembering that you are not perfect after you have made a mistake? All right, this is another big one. I actually just recently made a video on this. Um, Growing up, I would definitely have the perfectionist type of mentality, wanting to achieve perfection, wanting to achieve a higher height, always being perfect. And what I've learned through being a therapist, and also what I've learned through the process, is a lot of the times it limits you. Even if with a certain post that I want to make, or with a video that I want to put out, or anything that I want to do, and I constantly try to just achieve perfection, I notice that it stops me from doing whatever it may be that I want to do. And a lot of the times that can be because we try to take so much control. And by being able to surrender and say, I'm good enough for whatever I produce, for whatever I do, of course, trying to grow, even sometimes when you stay in the same level and don't necessarily grow, that in itself can also be very important. There's this saying, if you're not growing, you're automatically going back. That's not always the case. Sometimes you need to stay exactly where you're at to be able to kind of regain your strength, so this way you can go up. So being able to remember that we don't need to be perfect. We have to make mistakes in order for our life to be able to be wholesome. Anything good that we're going to do will have to come through sometimes making a mistake. And if we constantly live a life with trying to be perfect and trying to be so calculated, could we even consider that living? Because we're spending all of our energy trying to just focus on not making a mistake without even being able to enjoy the present moment. So going back to the question of being kind to yourself, if you made a mistake, be kind to yourself, and through there you'll be able to overcome that challenge that you're facing with. Um, all right, there's the next question. How well do you use goal setting to cope with everyday stress? So for me personally, I find when I set up a goal for myself, it definitely helps me achieve a lot more than I want to. A lot of the times, and I suggest this to my clients, a lot of the times we have all these thoughts in our mind. All the things, all the tasks that we want to do is in our mind, and we don't put it on paper. When we see it, it definitely helps us achieve our goals, whatever they may be. And a lot of the times, not only when we have a goal, but when we create subcategories for that goal. For example, let's say you say, today I want to get this specific project done. And then you say, what do I need to make sure I get this project done? What are the steps that I have to take to make sure I'll be successful doing this project? And this way you'll be able to help yourself. And this is what has worked for me. So definitely setting up a goal to cope with everyday stress. That was the question. How do you use goal setting to cope with everyday stress? And this is the reason why it helps, is because whenever we feel our mind is about to explode with so much information, with so many tasks, that's when we feel stress. So being able to write down on paper, or some people have a board in their kitchen or on their fridge, or on their phones, right? Being able to have a strategy plan, a daily strategy plan. You can have a weekly, a monthly, a yearly, even hourly. What do I want to achieve? And the biggest thing I hear from people is procrastinating. People have a very difficult time achieving their goal because of procrastination, right? And if we think about procrastinating, it's a stress response. People do it because they want to relieve stress. That's the most important concept to remember. But what happens is we have a quick release of stress, but it ends up being a lot higher because we have that memory in the back of our mind, remembering that, oh, I still have to make sure that task is done, but it's not. So whenever we tackle it, it can be, let's say for example, if we know that we need to study, right? And we know that studying is going to take a very long time. To be able to devote a couple of minutes to it first and say, you know what, I'm going to, instead of doing 3 hours, I'm just going to start 5 minutes. Statistics show there's so many studies that have been done to show that when you just say 5 minutes, you end up doing it a lot more. And your goal is not to do it more. Your goal is just to do 5 minutes, just to be able to kind of get in that state of mind that you're going to be productive. Um, Next question. Here we go. How well do you use an upbeat attitude as a coping skill? Right. So that's a very interesting question. And a lot of times we want to be very in tune with how we feel. If you had a crappy day, if something bad happened, you want to be able to be in a place where you can actually sit in that pain for a little bit. A lot of the times people try to portray this happy life and this happy persona. So it's almost like they're suppressing what they feel, and they don't allow themselves to experience those real emotions. Feeling anger, feeling sadness, feeling frustration are all valid feelings. We definitely don't want to suppress. Of course, if something happened at home or if something happened at work and I know I have a party to go to and I have to go to an event and I may not want to come in with a sour face and I kind of have to have my game face on, fine, that's understandable. But making sure that you're very aware with what you're doing, because we don't want to. There's this concept of toxic positivity that people feel that they can smile through their pain. For if you genuinely feel happiness and content, absolutely being an optimistic person. You can definitely be sad about a specific situation, but also be an optimistic person. We don't want. I'm not trying to say if you're sad now you have to be angry at the whole entire world. We're saying that it's okay to have feelings, and not to the saying positive vibes only. Like that's not necessarily the case. We want to be able to say you're allowed to have any kind of vibe you're feeling. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling frustrated, to be able to sit with that for a little bit and work through it and say, why am I feeling this way? What comes up for me whenever I think about this specific scenario? And once you work through that, you can feel a lot more content. All right. Next question, and I think this will be we'll do two more. We'll do two more. How well do you use zeroing in on what is really bothering you and dealing with it as a coping skill, right? A lot of the times, and this is a great example for a defense mechanism called displacement. Let's say something happened to you at work and your boss yelled at you, or something didn't go as planned, and you're very upset, and you can't share your feelings with your boss or your coworkers, and you come home and your spouse or your child asks you for something and you start yelling at them, or you get very angry with them really quickly, and they might kind of be shocked, like, whoa, where did this come from, right? And they're gonna go to bed, or they're gonna leave the dinner table and be very upset with what happened between you and them. And a lot of the times we do this without thinking. We do this not realizing that we just yelled at them, or we just said something to them because of what happened to me earlier on in the day. So when we are able to zero in and train our brain to understand and be in tune with what we're feeling, can actually create a lot healthier relationships. A lot of the time we have that, we don't create healthy channels of communication because we don't allow ourselves to feel. And a lot of the times when we say assertive communication, you don't necessarily, that doesn't mean you have to curse the other person out. But being able to share your feelings and how you feel can also be very validating and comforting, to be able to get your feelings out. And that's a healthy way of communication. So this way, when you come home, you can still preserve the relationship that you have with your spouse or with your kids. For the last one, we have, how well do you use forgiveness to cope with past hurts? That's a huge one. A lot of the times, especially people who go through trauma, any type of trauma that a person went through, there's a component where there needs to be forgiveness, And for many, that can be really difficult to do, especially if the pain is really deep and the person suffered many years from it. It can be very challenging. It can be very challenging to be able to forgive somebody. For me personally, working through that, understanding why that bothered me, understanding me that it's not my fault, understanding that it's a process to be able to forgive, and also knowing that when we hold on to it, hold on to the pain, it's really allowing the person to live rent free in our mind. So being able to forgive, not even necessarily for their sake, but for your sake. So this way you can have content and peace of mind. And we definitely don't want to rush the process. This is a journey. Everybody's on their own personal journey. So I just wanted to share my peace of mind with you all today. I don't necessarily, I don't always do this, and this is something new. I think this is the first video I've put together to share my thoughts and my feelings of something personal. As a therapist, a lot of what we do is, I think I should say, everything that we do is really about the client and making sure it's about them. And I don't necessarily share certain things in sessions, but being able to do this on this platform gives me the opportunity to share some of the things that I went through, or some of the things that I cope with and how I cope. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all in the same boat. And some of us might have had different experiences, and but we can all learn from each other. And people that share their coping skills with me and share their life journey with me definitely can empower me as well. So I just wanted to say thanks so much for being here and listening, and I look forward to doing this again. This was actually very, very comforting for me. A little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but I look forward to doing this again. So thank you so much, guys, and stay tuned for the next episode. Take care. Have a good night.